Hey everyone, I apologize for the talking hands video today, but just don't have a heck of a lot of time to edit. But I just got my Mora knife, and I just kind of wanted to share my initial impressions with you. This knife has become very popular in the bushcraft community, and I've been using Spyderco knives for a while, and I've been pretty happy with them. They're pretty light and very functional, but I've always been looking for a lightweight fixed blade knife. And I've heard a lot of good buzz about the Mora knife, so finally decided to just break down and get one. At 12 bucks, it's definitely a bargain, and my overall impressions are good. I haven't really used it out in the field much, but just wanted to see what it's kind of like out of the box. So there's a lot of different versions of Mora knives. When you say Mora, that could actually mean a lot of different types of knives, but this is the classic #1, and it's got the wooden handle. This is red birch. It's about a 4-inch wooden handle, and it's just about a 4-inch blade. So a little bit longer than what I'm used to carrying, but seems like it would be a good functional fixed blade knife. So let's go ahead and look at some of my overall impressions right out of the box. The first thing I noticed is that it comes with this plastic sheath, and it's got a belt loop here, which I'm not sure if that looks too functional. It looks kind of thin and it might be hard to get in a belt. Also, I noticed a lot of the survival guys tend to tie this around their neck, and I'm not really sure how they do that because it looks like it might be kind of hard to tie some paracord or something through there, so not sure how that's going to work. Another thing I noticed when I've looked at other people's blog posts or videos or photos of their classic Mora is that the handle tends to wear away right where the plastic meets the handle. It just takes that varnish off after a while from putting it in and out all the time. So I would have liked to have seen a leather sheath on this actually, with a nice thing where you can attach some kind of cord to hang around your neck. But we'll see. I might replace it. I might just make do with it or do something else. I don't know yet. Anyway, the knife, on first impression, is very sturdy. One of the things I heard about this knife and its reputation is that it's so strong that you can actually pound it sideways into a tree and have a grown man stand on top of it, and the blade won't bend or break. I don't know if that's actually true or not. Not sure if I'm going to ruin my knife by testing that out, but it's definitely sturdy. I could definitely see that you could do some batoning with this and it wouldn't be a problem. It's got a full tang. So you can just definitely feel the quality of the knife. Now, this is carbon steel. It's not stainless. So that means it's going to require some extra attention. And unlike other knives that you can just kind of wipe off maybe oil once in a while, this one takes a little bit more care. So, however, an advantage to that is that it's a lot easier to sharpen, especially in the field. One thing that's interesting about this knife is the grind. So I don't know if you're familiar or not with Scandinavian grinds, or Scandi grinds as they're called them, but you can pretty clearly see here that the blade just goes flat for a while and then kind of just comes to a single point. There's no bevel on there. So let me show you what I mean with my high-tech graphics here. A lot of knives, including my Spyderco knives, are hollow ground, which means they kind of have a concave shape on each side and come to a point. Another very common knife grind is a compound bevel, in which you've got your flat sides and then a primary bevel and then a secondary bevel, and this is the part that you really sharpen, just this little bit. Now, these are sharp, but they're not very durable. These are more durable, but a little bit harder to sharpen, not quite as sharp, and you don't get the angle if you want to do things like shave really thin slices of wood off to make tinder or kindling. So the angle just hits the wood at a different way, so you don't get that same kind of tilt that cuts into the wood in a finer way. Now the Scandi grind comes down flat and then just has a simple edge that goes down on each side like this. And what you do is, when you sharpen it, you actually put each side fully against the sharpening stone. Unlike this, where you wouldn't sharpen the bevel and then the secondary bevel. You would just sharpen this part usually. However, in the Scandi grind, you sharpen the whole thing. So that makes it a lot stronger and a lot sharper and a lot easier to sharpen in most people's minds. I haven't sharpened this thing yet, so we'll find out. But anyway, that's the principle behind this, and I guess one of the reasons why the bushcraft community likes it so much. The blade itself is sandwiched steel, so I don't know if you can see or not, but in the middle here you'll see a darker piece of hardened steel, and then kind of on the outside you'll see these layers of softer steel. And that just makes it a heck of a lot easier to sharpen, but it gives a lot of strength. So that's one of the advantages of this kind of designs. One thing I guess I was kind of disappointed about was that they didn't finish the top very well. It's kind of rough. You can kind of see the outer layers of the softer steel and then the inner layer of hardened steel. But I guess that's just how they finish them. In a second here I'll show you what I plan to do about that and how that gives you another advantage when using your Mora knife. But overall, definitely a quality blade. Pretty sharp out of the box. I was a little bit disappointed when I did the paper test. I had heard that this knife was extremely razor sharp out of the box, and it was okay, but I don't think it lived up to its legend. But anyway, since it's so easy to sharpen, I don't think that'll be a problem. The handle is something I found interesting. I've never really had a full tang knife like this that was just kind of like this round bulbous kind of piece of wood. I'm actually a little surprised that the bushcraft people like this so much, because it seems to me that your hand might slip off right onto the blade. It does have a pretty good thick center here, and you can grip it pretty good. But I guess one of the things that surprised me is that this one doesn't have a guard. Now I know they do make a version of this with the guard, but to me it just looks kind of weird. It looks like a sword or something, so I didn't really want that one. But really more concerning to me was the fact that this is kind of slippery. I'm used to a knife that has a texture on it, just in case it gets wet or something. You know, at least you've got a little bit better of a grip. But the bushcraft guys like it for a reason, so I guess there's only one way to find out if I'm going to like it or not, which is to try it out in the field. The other thing I noticed is that it doesn't have a hole here, which is kind of curious for a lanyard. I don't know how far the tang goes down, and if I'd be able to drill into this. I think it only goes down to about here, so I don't think it goes right to the end. Otherwise, thered be something here. But I might be able to drill a hole in this if I wanted to put a lanyard through there. It's not that big of a deal, but just something I thought of. I kind of expected to see a hole there for a lanyard. Before I mentioned the kind of unfinished top of the knife here and how it was just kind of rough, one thing about that is that the edges are rounded and smooth. And I saw someone talk about filing that down on a stone and just getting a nice kind of right angle on the edge, semi-sharp kind of right angle, so that you can use it with a fire steel and use that and then save your blade. So I think I might be doing that. One thing, I think it's going to make it look better, but also I like that idea of using the back edge of the knife to hit a fire steel instead of using the blade. So that's one modification I might make too. Another thing I'm thinking is putting a patina on the blade. Now, I said earlier that this is carbon steel. It can rust fairly easily. And one thing you can do to stop rust a little bit, or prevent it, is to put a patina on here, which is a form of rust, but it's kind of a different type of rust. So there's lots of different things you can do. You can wrap this blade, douse it with mustard and then wrap it up and leave it overnight. You can stick it in a potato for overnight, or a couple days, depending on how dark you want the patina. There's other things you can do. I've heard about boiling it in vinegar and all different kinds of crazy stuff, but I might try to put a patina on here just to inhibit rust a little bit. Now if you do that, one thing to keep in mind is that once you put your patina on and then you sharpen it, you lose it, so you're going to have to redo it along this Scandinavian edge here. So just one thing to keep in mind. I don't know, a lot of possibilities here, a lot of things to play with. Okay, so those are my initial impressions on the Mora, and I'll be testing this out over the next few months and weeks, but overall, pretty good knife. Great value for sure. I think I got this one for 12 bucks. Nice thing about that is that if you really just damage it or lose it, the replacement cost is pretty low. So the knife itself is 2.1 ounces. With the sheath, it's 2.9, so it's just a little bit more than my Spyderco. And the blade length is slightly under 4 inches, and the handle length is exactly 4 inches. And again, that's a red birch handle. So it's a good looking knife, and I don't know, might turn out to be a good value. It might end up replacing my Spydercos in the field, who knows.